Hello, welcome to my video. On this video I'll tell you all about my run to kill all bosses as Wurt. Wurt is a special character because she can craft worm houses and make worms fight for her. From hound waves to killing bosses, they can't stand a chance against the worm army. She can even turn one of the worms into a king that boosts the stats of all worms including Wurts. However, you are not seeing any of that on this run. Building worm houses and taking care of the king is really time consuming, especially when it comes to get all of the supplies. Having a higher hunger, sanity or even health for boss fights don't really matter since I'll always try my best to avoid damage, also having enough armor and healing at disposal. So I'm basically playing vegetarian Wilson versus all bosses. Talking about that, she has a nice advantage when it comes to hunger. She gets 33% extra hunger when eating any vegetables, fruits or butterfly wings. Being vegetarian has its limitations, but the hunger boost is a decent trade-off. She can be wet without any of its downsides besides getting cold faster. And she gets a speed boost from walking on marsh turf. And her worst downside is being an enemy to pigs, meaning they'll attack her on sight and she can't even trade with Pig King. Those are the most important traits, but she has a lot of good small traits and I advise checking the wiki for more information. You would be surprised on how many small details are part of this character. Anyway, I'll leave in the description all the mods I'm using, the settings and how I use them. So if you have any questions about that, you'll get your answer there. And the forest and caves generation settings were not changed at all. The rules for this run are simple, no deaths and no rollbacks. So let's go. As usual, my goal for autumn is to rush the ruins. There are many benefits from this strategy. Magiluminescence and Thulesite Club are good for the speed boost, star colors for lights and heat during summer, and Thulesite helmets are amazing as defense against bosses. Construction amulets and deconstruction staff are also amazing utility, and the staff will be needed later. I was planning on a normal rush, just me, handbats and blue mushrooms in my pockets. However, I found tons of supplies super early, including a Beefalo herd, so naturally, I decided to rush the ruins on a Beefalo. I do have a video about this strategy, I'll leave the link in the description if you are interested in learning more about it. The only thing I forgot really was to make a piggy backpack. Since I'm riding in a Beefalo the entire time, the backpack's speed reduction would have no effects and I could really have used the extra slots. But it is what it is. I got a good start in the caves, finding the triple mush forest as I started exploring. Grabbed some blue caps to heal myself and the Beefalo and started exploring to find the ruins. The one thing I have to keep an eye with this strategy is the Beefalo's bug timer. The longer I ride it, more domestication points it gets. Higher domestication means I can ride it longer. It is as simple as that. So I do have a couple of days to spend just getting the domestication a little higher before I put myself against Clockworks and Nightmare creatures. By the way, if you are wondering what I'm feeding the Beefalo with, it's light bulbs. Hunger doesn't matter as much as you'd think. All it matters really is giving it something to eat so it's obedient enough for you to ride it. By constantly giving it light bulbs, that problem is solved. At day 6 I found a depth swarm for my moguls. And at day 7 I found the ruins entrance, close to the blue mush forest. Rushing the ruins with a Beefalo is nice because the Beefalo will tank almost everything for you. The only exception is bishops, and that's why I brought a marble suit with me. Except that hammering a science station can spawn speeders that also can attack you directly. I was in a really bad situation here. I had to step back for a minute, feed the Beefalo as I was dodging nightmare creatures, get back on top of it, finish the nightmare creatures and go back to finish the spiders. So yeah, I got remembered once again that I shouldn't be testing my luck on those stations so early in a run. But the run went smoothly after that. At day 11, I decided to cheese the Ancient Guardian with the Beefalo. Don't worry, I'll redeem myself with a legit fight later on this run. I did this because I forgot to prototype a Salt Lake to avoid losing Beefalo's domestication as I was fighting AG. But I can really use the ordinary points I'm getting like this. Beefalos will get ordinary points every time it attacks or it's attacked, so this is a nice strategy to get a guaranteed ordinary Beefalo, the one that gets a small damage boost when fully domesticated. But it's worth mentioning that AG has changed it recently. It no longer gets stun locked just by attacking it, so you only have a small window to hit it twice before dodging, which makes this fight a whole lot longer. I honestly would rather this particular cheese to be fixed instead of that change, but since they didn't do it, I guess I should take advantage of it. And the loot is not that good. Well, I guess I deserve that for cheesing it. I wasn't in a rush to get out, so I explored the second branch a little further and found a room full of statues. I'm really liking this ruin generation so far. This particular room is indispensable in a long-going world, otherwise you are not getting a lot of Thulecite every time you clear the ruins. And at day 13, after crafting everything I wanted, I found stairs super close to the ruins, and going through it, I was back in the surface world. One of the huge advantages of taming a Beefalo early is quickly exploring the world from edge to edge to locate everything that is important. From day 14 to 18, I located pretty much everything on the surface, and I started my temporary base at the Oasis Deserts, which I'll use until all bosses are killed. Winter started, and first thing to be done is to kill some mactusk, which gave me 1 tusk and 1 Temoshanter, just what I needed. The next plan is straightforward: kill Dragonfly. I spent some time gathering berries and birchnut seeds to make trail mix. Trail mix is an excellent healing dish that is super cheap to be made. 1 cooked birchnut seed, 2 berries, and a twig will get you 30 health points healed. I chose to bring a lot of healing because Dragonfly is not so easy to kite. When she's moving towards the player, unlike other mobs, she will not stop before attacking, she will attack whilst moving. So if you move too early, her attack is pretty much unavoidable. This is the one fight where I'd rather just have tons of healing instead of trusting my kiting skills. She enraged 3 times, and by the end of the fight she spawned 3 Levites on the only pool where they can get to me, which is extremely unlucky. Nonetheless, the fight went much better than I expected, and I haven't used as much healing as I predicted. Second mactusk trip went just as the first one, 1 tusk and 1 tam. At day 27, I started the preparations for the Moon Altar events. I usually complete these events at day 31, and on this run it's not different. And within a few trips of gathering rocks and killing Vocals, at day 29 the setup is done. Later that day I found Klaus' stash, but it's not time to fight it yet. Deerclops is about to spawn. I went back to the Moon Altar and she wanted to destroy all of my hard work. Luckily, I managed to lure her away just before she destroyed anything. Full moon happening tonight, so I just waited around for it. And my setup worked flawlessly. Moon color staff achieved. And at day 32 I ran to the stash to fight Klaus. This fight is quite simple: attack a few times, dodge the melee, run away to avoid the hitting magic attack, and run behind Klaus for the ice attack. In the second phase you just need enough speed boost to dodge the chomp attack, and the rest is basically the same. If you are new to the game, I definitely recommend you learning these fights as soon as possible. It can drop loot from almost every boss in the game, so this is a mandatory fight every winter. I got hit a few times, but I didn't even need healing, so I call that a good fight. And for the loots, yep, got Krampus' big old stinky sack, and a Malbatross bill. In my opinion, obviously besides the sack, Malbatross bill is the best item to get as your first class loot. This ore is so powerful that you don't really need sails to navigate the ocean. I usually leave Malbatross as one of the last bosses to kill because there's RNG on both fighting the Bestial and making it spawn. So getting the most powerful ore early ends up being a huge time saver, and besides that, I personally control the boat a lot better using an ore than using sails. Overall, I got everything I could have wanted from Klaus. Moving on, next step is setting up the marble pieces for day 41. And at day 35, the last day of winter, all pieces were assembled. I love Beefalos. And later that day I came across the chunky lunar boulder, getting myself the celestial orb. I don't know where I messed up on the Beefalo's domestication, but spring is here and it's still not fully domesticated. This is really bad because ride timer is drastically reduced when Beefalos are in heat, so I do have to make an effort to fully domesticate it as soon as possible, otherwise I can't ride it for long and it will attack me if I'm not wearing a Beefalo hat. But fortunately, after a couple of days it turned into a beautiful ornery Beefalo, just as planned. So let's use it to kill some stuff! Spring is a nice season to start farming. Since it's constantly raining, water crops will have a good chance of getting the seeds, and the plan is to get loads of potatoes for healing. Day 41 is here, so let's kill the shadow pieces. This is the only part of the run where I actually use the swamp turf for the speed boost. But you can very easily use a road for this, just need to make sure they are following you and you can bring them anywhere. This was a fun fight because I was able to use the tentacles in my favor, and overall an excellent fight supply wise. I was overprepared and I barely used a fourth of a Tulisite crown. I will jump to day 48 here because if you notice the 41 trail mixes in my inventory, you know it was just a lot of berries and birch nut seeds gathering. This is actually the first big challenge of the run. Bee Queen is not an easy boss to solo, especially if you're not playing a character with damage modifiers. I waited for a heavy rain and started the fight as soon as it got lighter, so I could use a Morningstar throughout the entire fight. Morningstar is the best weapon in the game in the right scenario. Its base damage is really bad, but when fighting a wet mob it gets enough damage to surpass Dark Swords. But just as I said, if the monster is not wet, it's really bad. I do have a video about this Bee Queen strats if you want to check it out, but I'll briefly explain it here. For the first phase, I'll kill all Grumblebees except for one and just tank, dealing as much damage as possible. Second phase, there are 2 batches of Grumblebees, so trying to leave one alive doesn't work anymore, she'll just spawn more. Strategy is to lure Bee Queen as far as possible from the Grumblebees and deal damage until they catch up. The third and fourth phase are almost identical. You'll screech sending the Grumblebees after the player at high speed, so the strat is to lure the Grumblebees away from her and go back dealing as much DPS as possible until they catch up. And I used a few Pamphlet charges on the Grumblebees just to have a few more seconds of DPS. spite of waiting for the rain to get lighter to start the fights at the best time possible, the rain stopped way earlier than I expected, so at this point Bee Queen was no longer wet and my damage went from 72 to 43. In retrospect, I should have prepared the materials for a handbats in my crumple sack. There's definitely enough time for me to quickly make it in between the Grumblebee charges, but since I haven't, I just had to finish this fight dealing low damage. Luckily, I never underestimate these fights. I always bring a lot of healing and armor, so I was able to finish the fight without problems. With a few days left on spring, it is time for goose hunting. This is where Beefalo shines. I don't have to waste armor, weapons or healing when the Beefalo is doing all the hard work. At day 55, I realized how evil Wurt has been to me. There's a meteor shower fields next to the oasis, and for whatever reason meteor showers don't stick to their specific biomes. From time to time it will invade nearby biomes and potentially destroy items and structures. Trust me, it was really painful, but I had to make the decision to change the word settings to turn off meteors. If there's one thing I'm extremely unhappy about Don't Starve Together, that is word generation. This should not happen on the biome that is the only safe place from smoldering during summer, because that's the place where you are supposed to base. Another scenario where word generation can be terrible is having the oasis connected to Dragonfly's desert. You only know what true pain is like until you had a random flaming tumbleweed burning up everything in your base. So yeah, in my opinion, it's the worst part of the game right now and it should be receiving some priority when it comes to future updates and fixes. But for now, it is what it is. Moving on, one of the biggest challenges in the game appears, the Lord of the Fruit Flies. JK, not really a boss, you can just hold F to kill it. But hey, the friendly fruit fly tending to all my crops will be super useful. As you can see, I'm starting to get a really nice amount of potatoes. Slowly but surely, they will help me throughout the rest of the run. Let's not forget to get 14 flowers for Pearl and cactus for the Fuelweaver fights. I wanted desert goggles, and for once I got super lucky with it, 70 hooks in total to get both blueprints. I actually didn't need it, I just like having it to see through the storm and in the future to complete the Moonstorm events. But of course, since it's for a video, it's much better on the eyes to watch these Antlion fights. I could have killed it with the Beefalo since it doesn't get the speed reduction from the storm, but I just wanted to have a normal fight for now. So there we have it. After that, I spent the rest of summer in the caves. I deconstructed my Mooncaller staff to complete the archives puzzles. I also gathered the fossils I'll need for Fuelweaver, and I finished raiding the ruins statues and crafted a few things before the ruins reset. I ended up fighting another ruins branch close to the entrance, completely separate from the other two branches behind all of those monkey huts, and also found the teleportable spot to the atrium on it. This ruins generation might not have a lot of statues, but the overall shape and access to it, it's amazing. The surface might be garbage, but at least the caves has its benefits. After all of that, I went to the surface to make the final preparations for Fuelweaver. And if you have a Bee Queen crown, this is how you should restore your sanity in the atrium. On the last day of summer, I started my favorite boss fight, the Ancient Fuelweaver. The first phase is quite simple. Dodge attacks and use the lazy explorer to escape the bone cage. The second phase is a big problem. You have to deal with the shadow hands to remove his invincibility shield. These hands can only be attacked if you are insane, and that's why I brought a nightmare amulet. You have to kill all the wolvins. If he eats one, it will heal him for 400 HP a pop. Once you kill all the hands, a countdown starts until it summons more hands, and the same is applied to the wolvins. You need to deal with all of that while being attacked, caged, and avoiding his mind control attacks that happens when you are insane. The trick is to deal with both the last hand and the last wolven at the same time, so you have enough time to cause a lot of damage until he's invincible and try to heal again. The wolvens are easily killed by the weather pain effects, but Fuelweaver moves around from time to time, and the tornado stays behind. That's when he gets a few unavoidable heals. And that's pretty much everything about the fights. Enjoy! After that, I did some boring stuff at the base and I used the astro detector to find the 2 pieces of the 2 piece altar. At day 77, Bearger decided to appear, so I decided to employ him as a lumberjack. After about a day of hard work, I took him to the deciduous forest where he'll be safe from the tree guards that he spawned. I brought the 2 piece altar into a newly made boat and sailed to the lunar islands. As I was fixing the altars, a hound wave appeared. Good time to explain why I never show hound waves. That's because I cancel most of them. Yeah. If you're not aware, as you hear the hounds growling, you can go to the caves, hop back into the surface, and the hounds will never appear. I know it's cheesy, but honestly, they are just annoying. I can't be asked. Anyway, time for Pearl's tasks. I got most of the items already, what I'm missing really is cookie cutter shells. I found a small salt formation at first and I only got 4 shells. But shortly after I found a huge formation which gave me all the shells I needed. And since I was already prepared with everything, I started completing her quests. Once again, I have a video on how to complete all of her tasks in one trip. If you want to know more about it, link in the description. It reached the point where I just completed every task besides giving her the breezy vest. Winter started, so I decided to just chill there until it starts snowing. But then I got bored, so I decided to explore some of the ocean, and a minute after I left, it started snowing. At this point, only a few bosses are left: Toadstool, Crab King, Malbatross, and Celestial Champion. I don't want to fight any of those bosses during winter. Crab King has a freezing attack, so that's not good during winter. If I was to fight Toadstool, I would have to deal with both wetness and freezing because it rains a lot in the caves during winter. So I just chilled for the rest of the season. Killing Klaus for another Krampus? Just kidding. And just in case you consider Spider Queen to be a boss, it's not. But wait, there are more bosses? What? This is the moment where Terraria crossover dropped, so I grabbed the Terrarian and at day 100 I fought the Eye of Cthulhu. Easy to kill, and the eye mask is amazing to save up on those pig skins, since I'll no longer need football helmets. This is the part of the run that really starts to slow down. I took some time to kill moose goods, completed another moonstone event, killed beasts, gathered some logs, and farmed for some potatoes. That was a lot of days of preparations for future fights and the general survival needs. Using the astro detector to locate the last altar shows the direction of Crab King since he is literally on top of it. But I was expecting Crab King to be far from the coast, so I made a fully equipped boat and... yep. This fight honestly terrifies me. Probably because I consider drowning from this fight as death, and it was the end of many of my runs before. I practiced this fight so much for the past couple of days and I improved a lot from it, and despite of being super nervous, I was confident that I could do this fight flawlessly. Well, it was not a perfect fight. Crab King has 2 main attacks. On attack number 1, bubbles appears around the boats, and if you don't stop it by freezing him, it will destroy your boats. The second attack is a big freezing wave, but that can be avoided quite easily by just stepping back. Quickly after the fight starts, he will summon claws in a hexagon shape around him, and they will attach to your boats if it's close enough, causing damage over time and destroying your boats. And besides that, it heals a lot if you don't stop it. As you can notice, it's a really dumb fight because it's not your health on the line, it's your boat's durability. And the only legit, consistent way to defeat it, it's basically a dance, and if you make the wrong moves, you will fail. There was 2 really close calls during this fight, so let's watch it. After that nightmare, I did a lot of boring stuff, set up a Volt Gold farm even though I didn't need it, and I finally found Ilka's, time for a war settle. Farmed for foods and healing, and I moved the final piece to the boats, but I didn't take to the lunar island yet. Instead, summer is here again, and this time I fought Antlion on top of the Beefalo. And after that, I decided to completely clear the ruins, and I mean it. I usually just go for the statues, and occasionally I'll lead the rook to destroy some of the broken clockworks, but very rarely I'll destroy everything by myself. But this time it was different. And it took me the entire summer, but I was really surprised with the amount of gems I got. And by the way, this time I fought Ancient Guardian legitimately, as promised. And it's day 143 and it's finally time to start the Moonstorms. This event is, as a whole, so much easier than it used to be. Now the birds will easily get stuck on trees and even on berry bushes. The infused moon shards last for a decent time now, so if you mine it and go straight to the lunar islands, you probably won't even need bundle wraps. At day 147, I finally remembered to grab Glommer. Notice that during Moonstorms, every night is a full moon night, so Glommer is always there. The events for the Moonstaff can be completed and all pigs will turn into werepigs. And at day 149, I assembled everything to start the Celestial Champion fights, besides the Celestial Orb. At this point, I remembered something. I haven't got a Houndwave since I left the caves at day 141. I quickly went back at day 148 for some green mushrooms and light bulbs. I'm not sure, but my guess is that somehow this quick trip reset the Houndwave timer. I didn't want a Houndwave mid Celestial Champion fight, so I decided to wait for the next one. I didn't have much to do, so I decided to have another fight instead, the Twins of Terror. Now this was a terrible idea. The problem is, autumn nights are super short. I started this fight at day 151 and it ended up at day 158. So, through the power of editing, enjoy! The twins are defeated and the Houndwave just happened. It's day 159 and I was finally able to fight the Celestial Champion. fight went by without any major mistakes, except that, right by the end, it decided to use 2 laser attacks back to back, and that was 100% BS. If I didn't have good armor equipped, that easily could have been death because I got hit by all 6 laser attacks at once. But oh well, it is what it is. Our third winter is here and I killed Klaus again, because it's the law. And I sailed for a bit to find the best tool to spawn Malbatross. I got a little unlucky with it, but at day 179 it finally spawns. This fight was kind of a big mess. The plan was to use the weather panes on it, so I could get a large amount of feathers, and it worked, except that I hit my anchor with it. So yeah, I guess it's not a legit CatPerson's run if I didn't do something really stupid, once again almost failing one of the easiest fights in the game. Next and final fight is Toadstool. I left Toad as last because through this entire run I wasn't sure if I wanted to kill normal Toad or cheese the misery version. Not cheesing misery Toadstool was not an option. Last time I did it, it only took half an hour and an absurd amount of supplies, so I decided to never do that ever again. So in the end, despite of wanting to kill the misery Toadstool to get the unique blueprints, I didn't really want to finish the series with a cheese fight. So there we have it, a normal Toadstool fight. I usually fight it by spamming weather panes on the trees, but this time I decided to be more conservative. I used a combination of 1 pamphlet, 1 ice staff and some glass axes to deal with the trees, only using the weather panes for the final phase. And that's it for all bosses. I would like to thank the sponsor of this video, your mom! But wait, a few of you probably noticed that we are missing one boss. As I got home a few days later, I took a look at the sketch pile and finally noticed that there is one sketch that I don't own. Therefore, a boss I haven't killed. So yeah, Mr. Bearger, we have some unfinished business. And that's finally it for all bosses. 206 days to kill every single boss is not that great, and I could have reduced that number by a whole lot if I didn't care about exposing my Wurt to smoldering, not spending supplies mindfully, and so on. And the biggest time saver of all, planning it a little better. But I guess it's a better showcase of how a normal run goes. Just playing the game casually, still having the goal of killing all bosses. And most importantly, having fun on the way. But probably not a good showcase of how Wurt should be played. But I chose her because she's the character with the most potential for mega basing and long going words. And I've been wanting to have that experience for a while. I usually don't ask this, but make sure to like the video and to subscribe if you found the video enjoyable. And if you want to chat or discuss about Don't Starve, join my Discord. And as always, thank you for watching.